And now for the table of knowledge. We thought and we came up with O is for opportunity cost because we thought that was something interesting to discuss that we haven't really talked about before.
Yeah, that's right. And it's something that I think a lot of business owners, I don't know whether they think about it or they don't really think about it. They may not be conscious of it, but opportunity cost is a decision that people make probably nearly every day, in all honesty.
Everything.
Exactly. Some might be smaller decisions, some might be larger decisions, but you're always constantly making that decision.
Yeah, and as an advisor, I often sort of try to bring back to the client, well, what is the opportunity cost of making that decision? So let's discuss what is opportunity cost, Jade.
What is opportunity cost? So this is the definition. So the opportunity cost is the value that the business or individual foregoes when choosing one option over another, whether the loss is in money terms, in productivity terms, so the use of time, or also in energy terms and efficiency as well. So there's a few different areas.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all based on the fact that resources are scarce, right? So there is not infinite choice. Well, there is infinite choice, but a lot of those choices are mutually exclusive. So that means you can't do everything. You can only do some things at the cost of something else. And often, like, let's talk about it on just a personal, to start with, and then we'll move to a business sense. So, my opportunity cost, I could buy a house here, or I could buy a house somewhere else, or I could rent and use that money to invest in the share market. Like, there's all sorts of decisions that we make every day, and we're trying to work out what's the best choice. And often we don't know. But the opportunity cost is we can't buy a house everywhere.
No, exactly right.
We can only make one or two decisions on that.
Exactly right.
Probably one in most cases. But, some people can have a decision to buy a second house, and that's great. But again, there's an opportunity cost. Where do we want to buy that? Little basic things even like, okay, I want to go down and buy myself a coffee this morning. That's probably going to cost about $5. If I didn't spend that $5 and left it in my wallet, I could use that for something else later on down the track that might be more important than the coffee today.
Exactly right. So we all make these decisions every single day. And, people make decisions like, and they may be bigger decisions like, do I go to university for 4 years and study? Well, I might get my degree. What am I losing in that 4 years? You lose, you're putting in the time. You may not be making that great of money while you're at university studying as well. But at the other opportunity cost is that you come out of it with a degree and you can then get a better job, weighing up these decisions every single day.
Yeah. And also time. So as an example that when I was reading through it, we've got $7 or $10 or whatever, and we decide we're going to go to the movies, and it's the night before our exam. We're taking that time. Not only are we spending the $10 to go to the movies, or $20 or whatever it is, depending where you live. It's a bit cheaper down here in Goulburn.
$9 here.
Yeah. But you're also taking that time away from studying, and would that have been better spent studying so that you could get a better result in your exam or not?
Exactly.
What are we using our time on? So
yeah, and I think that is a big thing. While I understand the opportunity cost in regards to money is really important as well, I think time is just as valuable, if not more valuable.
Well, it is the scarcest resource we have.
Yeah, exactly right.
So all right, now let's talk about it in a business sense, because often people come to me with business opportunities or ideas about their business, and they need to really make a decision about it. And I feel like we don't talk about opportunity cost enough. It's just like, okay, well, yeah, this would work. Let's take it down that path. But what are the other options around that? So a great example last night, I was talking to a client who's talking about setting up a business, and it actually came up in that conversation. Well, let's do the figures and work out, is this even worth doing? He has going to invest some money into this business to start this business. Is that the best use of his money, or is there a better use that he could have, such as putting it into share markets or buying another investment property with it?
Yeah, exactly right.
So again, opportunity cost. Also with his time, am I better to spend my spare time running this business, or am I better to spend my spare time doing something I enjoy doing?
Yeah, exactly right.
Or maybe it's the same thing. you
Yeah.
know. So it comes down to making those decisions and having the informed decision of not only what is that decision, but what else are you foregoing for it.
Exactly right. And another good example at the moment, Jo, is you are doing some training at the moment, some
Yeah.
very intensive training. That's taking up a lot of your time, and it is making you unavailable to do other things that you would normally be doing during the day, work-wise, of course. But you've weighed up that opportunity cost and you've gone, actually, me spending the 3 days doing this training is worth my time in the long run.
Yeah. So I'm just at the moment, just so you know what training I am doing. This is the second training I've done within a month of 3 days of training. So it's quite a significant investment of my time. That's 6 days of a month that I've spent on training. So the first training course I did a couple of weeks ago was on coaching. So I'm doing I did a training course on executive coaching, which will give me the qualifications to be able to be an executive organisational coach. And I'm very much looking forward to doing that because I'm loving every
You'll
part
be
of that.
great at that.
And then the one I'm doing at the moment is with an organisation called SAPEPA, which is around succession planning, asset protection and estate planning. And it will allow me to be an accredited as SAPEPA advisor, which means I can advise on all of this stuff. Now, it's very intense, but the payback is that I will have this incredible knowledge that I didn't have before. Both of these things are fairly new things to me. I do know about succession planning. I do know a bit about asset protection and estate planning, but this is at a much deeper level. And the fact is then I should be able to provide those services to my clients. The payback will be relatively good on both of these because they both have obviously dollar values in these solutions that can come to clients. And it's an opportunity cost. So, I could sit there and code some transactions for 3 days or 6 days, but instead I'm actually investing in myself and my business.
Exactly right. And a lot of the time it's hard because opportunity cost, you can't write it down and go, oh yeah, this is the better decision. You don't know at the time. You kind of have to take a stab in the dark and make a judgment call as well.
Yeah, exactly. Another opportunity cost I just want to talk about with money and with regard to businesses. Often people come to me and say, they want to buy a new asset, usually a car, but it might be something else, like it might be a tractor or it might be a piece of machinery. Should I finance that? Now, this is to me a typical opportunity cost question. Now, if you don't have the money for it, then the answer is, of course, you should finance it, okay, because how else are you going to get it? But often when people ask me that, they actually have the money sitting there to be able to buy that piece of equipment. And what they want to know from me is, should they finance it because they think they're going to get a tax deduction for it or a better tax deduction? That is not the answer, right? That is not what the question is. Yes, you may get a slightly better tax deduction because you're going to be paying interest and that will be tax deductible. But ultimately, paying more interest than paying for it outright is probably not, because you're going to get a tax deduction, is not a great decision.
No.
Like, why would you pay $100 to get back 30 or 25, right? Yeah. There's no logic to that decision. So what the question I really go back to them and say is, well, what is the opportunity cost of not financing it or financing it? So if you tie up $70,000 or $50,000, depending on what it is, of your cash, what could you be doing with that right now apart from buying that would earn you more money or provide you with a better circumstance?
Exactly.
And if the answer is nothing, then why would you finance it?
Why would you pay that interest if you don't have to and you can't use that money for anything else?
Yeah, but if the answer is, well, actually I could use that to hire another person, or I could use that to spend a bit of time updating our technology or whatever, there's always those questions that come into it. Or maybe I could use that so that I could finance 2 machines or two things. So what is the opportunity cost of making that one decision And it's not always a tax thing. It's actually about what else you could be doing with that money.
Yeah, that's right.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's important to mention, we have mentioned it before, you've said plenty of times before, Jo, there's no point buying something just for the tax deduction as well. So
Exactly.
That is an important point.
Yes. And I mean, I know at the moment we're starting to do a bit of tax planning. People going, well, should I be buying? Like, it's nearly the end of the instant asset write-off. Should I just go out and buy something now? I'm like, maybe, but
if you don't need
it, why would you do it? Like, why would you do it? So, yes, you'll get maybe 25% of that back as an instant asset write-off. You would have got a deduction for it anyway at some point in time. It just might have been over a period of time.
Taken a bit longer.
But why would you buy that if you don't need it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyways, I guess that's like just a really quick understanding of opportunity cost. But I think it's really important when you're a business owner or in anything in life, when you're making a decision, to think about what is the opportunity cost of what you've decided right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all do it every single day, some at a small scale, some at a large scale.
Yeah. So hopefully the opportunity cost of you listening to this podcast for the last, 45, 50 minutes is that you've learned something.
Yeah, and it's been worth it of what you could have been doing otherwise.
Yeah, okay. And actually, even on that, when I was looking at some of the examples, they talked about travel and, is there, do you drive so that you get there quicker, or do you take public transport, which might cost you a bit less? And to me, I think, sometimes when you think about that, you need to think about what you're doing while you're doing that. Now, if you're driving, you might be listening to a podcast, but if you're in a train or on a bus, you might be able to do a bit of work at the same time.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to your personal point of view and what you're going to be doing with that time. Maybe you just like catching not having to drive.
Yeah, just sit back and let someone else do the driving.
Okay, well, on that note, we might sign off for the week.